Hello, everybody, to episode 4 of the Top Podcast. We got something a bit different today. It's inspired by a comment we got on our last video from user at C6ZR1, very catchy username, who posted under the last video, should be called the Hot Takes Podcast. And I don't know if that was a compliment or a bit of a jab, probably somewhere in between. But I thought we should double down on it. So each of us has prepared multiple hot takes, 3 for today. And we will go around saying our hot takes. We will discuss them a little. And there's one extra rule. They need to be hot enough. So if the other 2 people don't agree and say, this is actually too obvious, please, Tim, Pokemon going up is not a hot take, then we have to make them spicier on the fly. And then I hope that this podcast will still exist for a while, and at some point we can make an episode and we look back on our hot takes and how they aged.
Oh boy.
So yeah, I will start with number 1, which is a bit of a bridge to last episode. And it's that in a year, so by August of next year, one of the 4 Mount Rushmore games we decided on last episode will be replaced. So in my mind, that means either a match sticker is found, which is a possibility how you could get one replaced. We would have a Super Mario 64 10, which I think we also kind of agreed on. If that exists, it at least has a very good shot getting in there. Or I think that's also possible. We will find another NES Zelda, which grades 9.8 A+. That would also take the spot. So my hot take is that one of these things will happen in a year.
That's not too hot. I mean, that's all of those are possible, right?
Yeah, but I think it's pretty hot because the grading hobby has been a thing for 18 years. It's been this is there's only small signs of a more up market, and then to assume that market goes up so much that the attention span of people that aren't into this right now are a trigger to search for these things. I think that is a pretty tall order. So I guess I don't agree. So in that sense, I think it's a hot
Then
take.
it's good.
Well, but I mean, grails have been found even during the downtimes. Like for the Zeldas, they have sold in 2023 as well. Then, I mean, I guess the second print Super Mario Bros. Was the start of the current up market. You could say that. Yeah. And with the Super Mario 64, it just depends if one of the VGA crosses is just clean enough, I guess.
I think the Super Mario 64 is the most likely one.
Yeah.
Because I think if there is a 10, it's already in the hands of someone that is in this hobby. Versus the other options where the people that will have a mint first print Zelda, a Mario Matt sticker, or something else, they don't have, they aren't into this hobby. So they will have to be pulled in by more attention. But I think the Mario 64 is more likely. But I think if it doesn't exist right now, there's no reason to assume that with grading standards remaining the same and or tightening up, that it will exist in the coming year. I think it will exist at some point, but I'm not sure if it's in a year.
Yeah, a year isn't that long. That's right.
I am kind of on your line. I wanted to make it a hot take, so I made the year there. I think in 5 years, I would say this is actually quite likely.
Yes, I think in 5 years, one of these things will 100% happen.
Yeah.
But a year is a bit soon.
Yeah. I think what this shows is that it is quite a dynamic hobby, right? We made a Mount Rushmore, and if we all think one of them will change in 5 years, then
that is true.
Yeah, we still have stuff to explore.
And who knows? Maybe FIFA on the Mega Drive. I mean, Genesis is the holy grail in a year.
Sure, that's a hot take. That's a hot take.
I don't agree with it.
that is funny, Trevor. You will hear more of this later.
Oh God.
oh my God. Okay.
Okay.
Oh boy. I guess my takes aren't hot enough if that's your hot take, but okay.
Well, then give us one, Lawrence.
Okay, that for sure is my hottest hot take, I guess. People won't care about the state of your game inside the box. They will care much more about the grade, I guess. So what I mean by that is right now, a lot of people are the collectors are saying buy the game, not the grade. And I don't think that will last. I don't know if it's even that much of a thing right now. And coupled with the people saying, oh, well, if you have NAND storage games like Switch, they will, won't be playable in a few years, which I don't agree with. And also the whole console thing with batteries. Oh, well, if there's batteries inside, they will leak and ruin the whole collectible. I think if you don't see anything from the outside, that won't matter in the least.
Okay,
I
well,
think
that part I think is a hot take, but the first part I don't think is a hot take.
Yeah, I'm on the same train. Like you had me. I was about to call you out that it's not a hot take.
Same.
But the consoles, because if there wasn't a battery problem, I would be a huge handheld collector. I think they're super cool. They look great. They have a great size, better than consoles because consoles are freaking bricks, especially like the bigger editions. But for me personally, as a collector, the fact that I have kind of a ticking time bomb, even if in the end it doesn't show, but you don't know if it eventually will. I don't like spending like 4 or 5 figures on something that could eventually just show an ugly spot on the back, and I would be really, really sad about it.
Well, my thing is, if you know the variant of the console, not every battery pack is like tucked to the side.
That's true.
And those are the ones that will show, because a leaking battery won't leak and like run down your console for like 10 centimeters. Its reach is pretty limited. So if it hasn't shown in like, I don't know, 25 years, what is the actual likelihood that it will still show? Like the regular Game Boy Advanced, those have problems because the battery is tucked to the side. But other stuff doesn't have that problem because the battery pack is like more inside. Maybe it's in a plastic baggie, stuff like that. And if it shows, I agree, it will hurt the value and people will care. But if it never shows, but you're basically positive that it leaked inside, it just won't ever show, I don't think people will care at all.
I think the leaking is the least of my personal worries with consoles, because leaking is very controlled. Even if it does leave a spot, it's not the end of the world in my opinion. But if it's a lithium-ion batteries, if they expand, I think that could be a big issue. It could explode. And also, I think, for example, with Game Gears, if those capacitors go, they smell like fish. Like that is very, very distinct, a terrible smell. And I think the smell of something could also cause issues with those consoles, with leaking batteries, with capacitors, with stuff like that. So for me, it's just unsanitary. It's risky. I would totally buy like an iPhone 1 sealed, for example, if it or 2EG. I mean, if it was safe, or an iPod 1 or whatever. But it's those batteries are so dangerous in my eyes, and I think even if it's not going to kill you or anything, I just think it's having that much capital tied up in something that's so risky. I wouldn't do it. I just don't think it will ever take off. I think any big movements in this market are purely speculatory and should not be seen as real market share of our collectibles. But maybe that's a hot take.
What do you think about the whole NAND storage issue?
I don't give a shit.
Like we won't play him, so I don't see how that could ever be an issue.
Usually stuff like that is super overblown, because like 10 years ago we also had the big deal with disk rot, and yes, of course, Wii U is very susceptible to disk issues. Sega CD, Sega Saturn, those got pressed very terribly, but still, one, no one cares we're sealed, and two, most CIBs are still okay. So it's like, if they are, I'm sure there are some Switch games that will stop working, and I'm sure there is a true issue there, but I think it's probably one, overblown, and two, not important for sealed.
Yeah.
Well, it is overblown, because those are only read-only memories for the NAND. They only get written once when they get made, and then you only read them. So I don't know how high the risk actually is when you only read them and never rewrite them. So I don't know. Maybe in 30 years.
I mean, I have flash drives that are like 25 years old that are Chinese ripoffs that still work. So I mean, if those still work, I'm sure the high quality custom made flash drives produced by a Japanese company will still work in 25 years.
Fair enough. So I guess it's not a hot take then.
No, that part isn't, but the other part is.
Okay, so none of you agree, I guess, then. So you would never buy, let's say, the safer route, advanced SP.
Yeah, but I think those are actually the risky ones, because those have
the SP as a risky ones.
Because all those lithium-ion batteries, they don't leak, they expand.
Aren't those lithium polymer like the old generation? Do they actually
they also expand?
Yeah. They also expand.
I have bought like lots of like 50 to 100 GB SPs, and they always expand. I'm not saying they always are huge risks. Usually they don't even show bulging on the battery cover, but they do expand.
Because for me, if this issue wouldn't exist, I would have more SPs. Like because I think the Game Boy Advance SP, that was kind of my favorite Game Boy. Even if you include the DS, I just thought it was so nice back then when they put the backlight and the battery in. It was such a huge step. And it's so compact, like the flip form function. I just love it. I think it's a very cool device. Even to play on today. I think if you want to play Game Boy games, that's the way to go. But I do worry about it. So
and also, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say on the first part, I do agree that from a will people care, the grade will always trump the actual condition, even if it shouldn't. Like there are definitely undergraded and overgraded games, or any collectible that gets graded, and especially overgraded ones. I do mind. Like if I buy a game and I get it in hand and I'm like, oof, looks very overgraded to me, I'm more likely to sell it again. Like not that I'm like, oh my god, I need to get rid of this, but it's at least a small nuance where I'm like, yeah, but if I could get the same grade again in a nicer condition, why not? So to me it does matter a bit, but I think for the market alone, because pictures are often not sufficient enough to really get the condition. Like, I mean, even Heritage just has front and back pictures, and people buy stuff for a ton of money, so you don't even know the condition. So it doesn't really matter, at least at the moment.
I mean, but it also doesn't matter in other collectibles, right? Like the Illustrated 10 was not a 10. Everyone agreed that was not a 10. That was probably not even a modern 9. So it's and that sold for the most that any trading card ever sold for, I think. Any card even at the time. And I think it should, because it is a 10, even if it isn't like actually a 10, if that makes any sense. It's still graded a 10. It got a 10. It was a 10 at one point. And I agree. I would also rather sell something if it's, like, in my opinion, overgraded, but also it's my opinion versus the opinion of the grader. So it's like, sure, some things are obvious, but also some things I value more than the grader. And there have been times where I've cracked something and I looked at it afterwards and I think, oh god, I shouldn't have cracked this. I had an obvious issue. And then I send it in and it gets the exact same grade. So it's like, okay, well, apparently I just valued this issue more than the graders do. And then there's that part to it as well. So it's a very arbitrary line to say, okay, this is overgraded and this isn't.
No, good point. And for example, for higher grades, it's pretty clear, right? It should be mint. But a water 9.0 can be a 9.0 for very different reasons. There's one that has a lot of small damage and looks actually quite beat, but the structure is still good. That can become a 9.0. Or it's like a near mint copy, but it has one pretty severe damage. And I often, from like just a presentation standpoint, I like the second more, where it's like, especially if it's on the back and it's like one really bad corner on the back, that is like justifiably a really big deduction grade, but the rest presents really well. I prefer that over the slightly beat on all sides copies, but there might be people who think about it differently, and both in the end need to come to the same grade. So I'm not even blaming PSA. I think it's being consistent. It's just coming to the same grade from different points, I guess.
Yeah, the card thing is actually why I thought of this, because in cards it's just buy the grade. Nobody buys, not nobody, but people don't buy the card. And in games that was like the whole thing, buy basically the item and not the grade.
In VGA cases, I buy the item because I want to cross them.
Yeah, but in VGA cases, I buy the item because I need to know if it's real.
Well, I always tell people to sell the grade and buy the item, because basically you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, all right. So now it's my turn. Let's see. So I will go with this one. I genuinely think this isn't played up. I think PC stuff will absolutely suck, except for some stuff long term. Like take Counter-Strike. That one will be decent. Diablo will be decent, but I think every other, like even loosely connected stuff, is going to be like going to nearly zero, I think.
Jesus.
Oh, it's going down even.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh wow!
What about my SpongeBob game in the back?
Yeah,
Trevor?
but you pay nothing for that.
Is that going to zero?
Actually, I think something like that would be decent, only because it's a nice artwork and it's not that easy to recreate. But I don't think it would be interest for the game itself. It would just be interest for a display piece. I mean, that's already the case, but I think
for this one for sure, yeah.
Yeah, but I think like almost everything, like for example, I was just talking to someone that bought a qualified, the only graded one, I think, GTA 1 PC US. I think like it's a cool piece, it's a nice display piece, but I think long term that will do absolutely nothing. Like I think it will.
Wow. No, I
even
disagree.
If it's an earlier
That's
release.
a hot take.
I think that is a super hot take. I mean, I have a similar hot take, but just toned down like a lot to yours.
Like I think there is some room. Like what I think will happen is it will consolidate. Like it will focus on specific pieces, right? So like the more spread out interest now that is already kind of tight, to be fair, will be focused on like maybe 10, 20 games. And then then there will be some specialists that go out to like maybe 60 more. But then there is a whole market of stuff that no one will care about. And I think that will continue to stagnate or go down even. Because I think there is just no way there's any future interest in this stuff, right? There's no way for that to exist or to come into existence.
Okay, so you think because certain titles will solidify themselves, that will drive down the value of others because they haven't proven themselves to actually be worth something?
No, because you are thinking of it in a market way, right? You think
Yeah.
like, okay, these are expensive, so then people will pile onto them. I think purely from a cultural standpoint, a lot of these games, even though they might be interesting in theory, will do nothing just because there's either console equivalents. PC is not as associated with collecting. PC is hard and difficult to collect for in general.
Right.
And I think there is no way for this culture to really shift unless something happens that is unprecedented. So I don't see a world wherein this increases in any way.
So I agree that there will be that PC has too many titles. And I think some of the titles that old school PC collectors care for, I see them a bit like the NES hang tab.
Yeah.
So like the LucasArts titles, for example, really cool, really important for that generation. Very little like future connection for the current generation. But GTA 1, for example, I think will have a pretty solid base of people that care for it because there's also a generation who played the later ones on PC, even though some of them released later. And still, PC gamers are pretty, like the PC master race thing is real. Like they're really, really passionate.
Yeah, but
and I think, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You think?
I think that those people will be interested in having that pretty cool looking GTA 1 big box.
Yeah, but I think, okay, maybe GTA 1 is not the greatest example, though I do not think it's a great investment. I mean, maybe it's fine because it's not that crazy right now. But I mean, there's also only one grade and it's not even sealed, but still. It's I think even if those people are PC master race and they like PC stuff, they will not connect it to physical games. I think they will. Those PC master race guys will sooner buy a console version of a game they played on PC, I think, than they would go out and buy a PC big box.
But they're PC master race. They hate console gamers.
Yeah, but they hate console games to play. They don't. If they are buying something that has a collecting background, the association is immediately consoles, right?
Yeah, for some games, and I agree that the biggest future is for the best PC exclusive. So that's for me any Blizzard game, any relevant Blizzard game. I think they have such a strong culture also around the brand, like BlizzCon and everything. People really love early Blizzard, and of course the mass multiplayer online games, Counter-Strike. World of Warcraft, which is also Blizzard, but I think that one is special in itself. But even something like Guild Wars, I think people will care about, and there will be people who collect it.
Yeah, I am. For expensive stuff, I can see them going down if, there's just not enough interest to prop it up. But there's so many stuff that's worth nothing. I can't see them going down at all because they're worth basically nothing.
Yeah, but I think, okay, that is something that is another take, so I guess I won't go into that too much, but I think people overvalue the safety in low cost stuff. But I'll go more into that in another take. But I think, yes, of course. I also think there's some PC stuff that will do well. And I think there is a decently low risk in buying some stuff now. But I think in general, it is like picking penny stocks versus going like Switch games, which I think will almost all do well. So it's I just think that even though I think some of the good stuff will do incredibly well, I think some of the badder, the worst stuff, like the mediocre stuff, will do incredibly badly. That's just what I'll say.
I mean, that is a hot take because I don't agree, but perfect.
All right.
I think that was a good hot take because it made me a little mad. So you achieved your goal.
Instantly triggered. Perfect.
now your next hot take is going to be that GameCube is going to suck.
No, more Sega hate. Just no. My second hot take is more is GameCube included, but in the other direction. It's that in the next year, I did everything towards in a year, but that was just my interpretation. A DVD case game or newer will sell for 6 figures publicly, setting a new record. So the current record was 108,000 on a Halo CE 98A Plus NFR, I think. And that record will be broken twice in the next year. So
By
2
what?
times there will be a 6-figure game publicly, DVD case or newer. That's my hot take.
By what? By what games? Because I don't think that's a hot take.
Okay, well, yeah. If it's not a hot take, that would...
No.
Wow. But that's crazy, right? Because right now, it hasn't happened in a long time.
Yeah,
And
but
the
it
next...
hasn't happened because the market on DVD case has caught up, and none of the truly high-end stuff has sold at good places. Like, for example, hasn't been a 98A++ Halo in a while. There hasn't been a 98A+ Melee that sold publicly outside of eBay, which eBay never gets the whole super high-end stuff. Even that Halo that sold for the most, that hasn't sold. I think if the 10 NFR sold, it would sell for more. I think if a 98A++ sold, I mean, that wouldn't sell for more, but it would sell for a lot more than it has been selling for. I think if a 98A+ Melee sold right now, made in Japan, it would sell for 40 or more. So if we are going to see the same trajectory as we see now in the market, I don't see why not. Right, and I think, for example, if the 96A++ Modern Warfare 206 part code sold in the proper environment and not just in a random heritage auction that for some reason always does poorly for Call of Duty, it would also sell for like 80 to 100 right now, even if it was at Golden or something.
Yeah. That was because I got the idea for this take when there was this little scare of a 98A++ on the pop report for the 206. Did you both catch that?
Yeah, it was.
No.
It was. So they updated the pop report, and it was a 98A++, but it was the wrong game. It was a 206 part code, but it was like a weird bestseller print, the one you had, I think.
Yeah. So they had it wrongly assigned, and the owner of the 96A++ probably shit his pants for a day.
Fair enough.
But I don't think so, because he
No,
got it
yeah.
so cheap. Like, it doesn't
No, that's
matter.
true. It's actually totally fine. But I think this one would break 6 figures. I'm quite sure, actually. If you put it on Golden, and it would exist, and I think it can exist. Like, it's still a game that can be found, even though it is very, very rare. And yeah, I think also if a real 98A++ MIJ Melee comes up, which is also possible, I still think it happening twice in the next year. Stuff still needs to keep going up.
Yeah, I guess so. And a year is a short time.
But it's also I did put this because I thought maybe I will look smart in a year if it did actually happen. So
yeah, but we're also, I think we're like one of the big, we're two of the biggest DVD case believers in like the hobby, like multiple people.
But I'm carport fanatic, and I agree. I don't think that's a hot take. I mean, there's multiple items that came to mind that would do that basically right now, or should do that right now. So
yeah, I think with the recent sales on the Pokemon games, something interesting has happened in the sense that I also mentioned this in my other podcast that I just uploaded. But I think that these sales have caused the ceiling to break. I think there's for a long time, like 100K was a true hard ceiling. Like, nothing sells over 100K. Even the Pokemon games, 98A++ on Heritage, they always go around 100K, maybe 150. It was like a hard ceiling, like a hard limit. And then the DVD case stuff was maybe like 20K or so. And I think with these recent sales as well as the genuine scarcity of raw and the lower end stuff going up a ton, I think this ceiling will have been broken. I think that people are starting to realize that, one, these DVD case games are old. Like, for example, Melee is like 25 years old. Modern Warfare 2 is like 20 years old.
Yeah.
The pops are
Halo,
super
25
low.
years.
Yeah, the pops are super low. They are not going to get that much higher, maybe like 2x in like 20 years, but not crazy high. And I think there's no reason to hold back anymore, right? We need to wait for this market to mature. I think the market is at the point where it can accept these sales.
I think that's
go ahead. I think there's actual rotation from TCG into games, like because games have been at that level for a while now, and people want to exit and don't know where to put their money. And these people also don't care if to spend like 100K. They also don't care if something isn't that old. So I think that's an actual big driver for that stuff that's happening right now.
Well, actually, speaking of DVD case, your LOL, I think that one would maybe do that soon.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it because I've been caught pumping it too much. But I think that is one, like, I think it will happen. And I think your point, Trevor, is actually very good with the ceiling. Because now that this happened, everyone is like, yeah, why not? Wait,
Yeah.
so if Pokemon is 1 million and the Silver 10 is 200,000, then the best Call of Duty can be 100,000. Suddenly everything seems in a different proportion.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Yeah, that will really change. And I'm curious because I think so far Heritage has actually sometimes done modern games a bit of a disservice by putting them into that sixth generation and beyond showcase. I like the idea of it, of having a modern auction, but so far it hasn't really seen the same prices as the signature. And I feel like the ceiling there was actually extra. Like if you were in that auction, you couldn't go over 50K. Kind of, that would be a hard ceiling. While if like there's just a psychological effect. If your game sells next to something that sells for 500,000, the brain of the buyer will be like, oh yeah, okay, I can also spend more on this. So I'm curious if they're going to shake it up, because I feel like it would help modern games if they would put more of them in the signature.
Yeah, but it's also just interesting because with Heritage, the super popular stuff, even if it's not modern, has consistently underperformed in my opinion. Like sure, the super high end, like the Mario 1, that's great, right? But I think like a Pokemon, a Call of Duty, Kingdom Hearts, League of Legends even, World of Warcraft, okay, I guess a decent World of Warcraft comp was pretty good, but overall, I think the comps are always disappointing. Like if for example, even at the time when the 96A++ Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 sold, I think it was for 18K.
Yeah.
Even at the time, that was cheap, right?
Yeah.
Even at the time, like a 96A+, whatever, would be like maybe already like 15 to 20K. So even at the time, that was like maybe half price. And stuff like that just is always happening on Heritage for some reason. And I think that's kind of interesting. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with the argument, but I do think that Golden being one of the options now really will open up this DVD case market more.
Definitely not a hot take. We all agree.
Yeah, but okay. But I guess 2 in the next year is a bit of a hot take. I can accept it.
Yeah. You accept it, or do I need to hire it?
No, I think it was a great discussion. I don't know if what would you say, 200K in 6 months? So
no. I say
I could for your league.
I could go up to to three games, six-figure games.
Which 3 though?
No, I want to leave that open because there's I think a range, but I think it can be.
It's cool where you get it right.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it my turn again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so my hot take, basically it's inspired by Game Gallery, John Hopper, shout out to the GOAT.
Legend.
I think like the ratio between, for my example, I will take Pokemon, Carport 9.8 A++ to 10s. Let's just take PSA. The ratio, in my opinion, is a little bit off because right now it seems to be, I think a 9.8 A++, let's say Sandshrew Red, would do, I don't know, 200K, 150.
More
I'm
right
not
now,
sure what it would do right now.
Let's say 300.
Let's say 300.
Yeah.
The ratio to a 1.2 million 10, I think, is off. If you want to value that at a 350K price tag, I think the 10 should be higher. And I don't know if the premium needs to be 10x. I don't know, but I just think the ratios are off. Like, for example, with Silver. Silver sold for 200K in the 10, and I think there's 2 10s, I guess. And a 9.8 A++ is 50, 60, maybe 70K. I don't know. I think that ratio is off. I think the 10 should be higher.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not a hot take. I dismiss it.
Before we ask you to make it more spicy, because I also agree it's not a hot take, I will say I think there's 2 things that are creating that disparity that are not natural and will not continue to exist. So in that sense, it's already just not correct to say that the ratio is off. Because 1, I think we are still in that old ceiling mindset. Like if a game is 50K now, like in a 9.6, for example, the 9.8 doesn't have the same room to multiply as it would on like a $200 game, for example. It doesn't have the same room, right? And I think that room is being created right now as we speak. but that still needs some time. And also, I think it's because it's a private sale. I think it's genuinely just them not coming to the correct price. I think if the 98A++ is selling for 60, 70K at open auction, the 98A++, the 10A++ would sell for more than the 200K it sold for. I think it's just old price memory affecting the way we value things. And one more thing I would like to say: if you look at cards, except for crazy exceptions, the super high end stuff, it also doesn't see that big of a multiplier on super high end grades. So, for example, if you look at the Lovebirds, a 10, I think right now it's like 15K or so, and a black label, a BGS black label is like 60, 70K. If you look at the Bubble Mew, sort of is a 2500 PSA 10, and the black label is 200K.
Yeah, but you're looking at it, I think, the wrong way, because you're comparing a PSA 10 to a black label, and everything PSA has a huge premium on its own already. So you're comparing like a lesser quality company to it. So you would need to compare like the PSA 9 to the PSA 10,
no, but
and
I
not the 10 to the black label.
Because the BGS 995 or BGS 10 gold label would also do similar to a PSA 10, or maybe a little bit more even. So on those cards, absolutely, on those cards it would. You can check prices.
I don't know about the Lovebirds, but usually BGS 9.5 is not a PSA 10.
Yeah, not 9.5, but a BGS 10 gold label would do similar. Maybe even more, actually.
I don't know about Lovebirds. Okay, so I need to make the argument spicier, I guess.
Yeah. I wanted to add one more point before. I think, because actually also on the Hobby Speculators podcast we talked about this, I feel like for games, I think for cards they may be overdoing it a little, and the healthy one is somewhere in the middle. I think games are doing it too little, and cards are maybe doing it too much, the high grade premium. There is also some nuance. I don't think there's a one-to-one just translation to this is the black label, this is a PSA 10, this is a PSA 9. To me, a PSA 98A++ game is better than a PSA 9 card. It's closer to the perfect thing in a way. So it's kind of like a 9.5. It's really hard to value, and it also depends on platform, because on some platforms I would value the 10 higher than on others. But for me, like a healthy multiplier is somewhere between 5 and 10x. So the 3 to 4x we see on the silver, that's definitely too low, or even 2.5x. I agree with that.
I want to redeem myself. The Lovebirds BGS 10 just sold for 18.6K June 3rd, and the 10 is selling around 15.
You were right, and I was wrong.
Redeemed.
I win. No, but I agree. But I also think, okay, well, maybe this is a hot take, but I don't think people always say that the PSA 10 A++ is similar to a black label. I think a black label is harder. I think it's like somewhere between a BGS 10 and a BGS 10 black label.
I don't think that's a general statement that you could make, because there's so many different kinds of games.
Yeah, of course. But in general, I think it's a little bit less hard than a BGS 10 black label.
I think the VGA 100 is the BGS 10 black label.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
I think that argument can be made. But yeah, make it spicier, Lawrence. We need spice.
Okay, let me see.
We want a number. What should be the multiplier?
Well, okay, if I need to make it spicier, I think it should be 10x. So, meaning, if you guys say 350K for Century Red, then we would need 3.5 million on Pokemon Red PSA 10.
Yeah.
All right. I can live with that.
Yeah, I can live with it, but I think there's so much nuance to that. Like, I think the market for 10s is also very dependent on what the market for the other grades looks like, in the sense that if there is I think I also said this already, I'm not sure, conversations blend into one. No, but I think if there is like a market where it's just like 9.8s and 10s, I think the multiplier will be much smaller than if there's a huge market of like 8.0s, 8.5s, 7.5s, and then there's 1.10 or 2.10s, or even if there's a couple 10s. Just the disparity and the market that exists outside of those high-end grades creates the possibility for there to be higher multipliers. Like for Breath of the Wild, for example, where you do see a 10x from 9.8A++ to a 10. Because the 10 is the way to differentiate yourself, versus with a more obscure game where whether you have a 10 or a 9.8A++, both are special, because there's maybe only like 6 in existence, right? So then even if you do get a 10, it doesn't mean as much as it does relatively.
Fair enough, I agree.
All right, Trevor, hot take number 2.
Which one should I go with? Now I feel like mine are not so hot anymore. I went with my hottest first, I think. I'll go with this one. I think Japanese stuff in general is overhyped. Just period. Full stop.
Not hot.
No. Okay.
Ice cold.
Yeah. Okay. Lawrence
But
disagrees,
Lawrence,
I think.
you
I
go.
disagree. I mean, that's just. I mean, I would disagree on certain titles, maybe, but that is a super hot take, in my opinion. Like, ooh, okay.
Now you made Lawrence mad. First
No.
no.
It is super hard to get me mad. There's like maybe 2 people in Discord that managed to do that. Maybe
I
1
think
now.
it's the
Oh
same
my!
people.
It's 2 again. It's 2 again. Okay.
Yeah, it is two again.
There's one person I can make
No,
mad, apparently.
there's 3 for me actually. And I think one of them has usurped the first place spot. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay.
Good. Okay. Wusa. Well, I wouldn't need evidence for that claim. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but there's no evidence. It's just my opinion, right? But I think there's a lot of velocity behind the idea that Japanese is first. Japanese is the origin point. Japanese is what the original intention of the developers was, right?
But that's all true.
Yeah, but it is. But I think games, more than any other collectible, are very strongly related to the way you experience them. And I think that, unlike with cards, where the art and the representation of the thing matters a lot, the fact that no one is collecting those Japanese CIBs, no one is playing those Japanese CIBs, you can't do anything with those. They are purely a thing that people buy because of the US versions, or because of the European versions, or just because of what they know. And I think the idea that it is the first is ignoring the history of game collecting and sealed game collecting in the first place. I think that there is so much to overcome in the current status quo, in the current paradigm, that the changing of the tides is more unlikely to me than for it to fizzle out in some way. Like, sure, Pokemon will remain expensive Japanese. Sure, all that stuff will be interesting in some ways. And sure, you can still speculate on Japanese stuff because a lot of it is still cheap. But I think the current push behind it is disproportionate.
Well, I could agree on that. It might be a
but
little bit.
it's also it's based on the fact that I think it's just overhyped in general. I think those elements are not that strong.
But which games like have actual hype except Pokemon for Japanese?
Whenever something starts being graded by PSA, it starts getting hype. Like, for example, look at the Famicom Disk system stuff.
Yeah.
PSA announces they graded, and immediately the stuff goes for like 4x what it went for yesterday.
Yeah,
Like,
but maybe it was just too low before.
Yeah, but maybe it is now too high. I think that that extra hype is maybe not justified. I think even if there is potential, I think that genuine interest that is supposed to come with stuff like this is not going to come as easily as people think.
I mean, I agree with like some titles, and there might be an argument for, I don't know, Pokemon being too hot. But outside of Pokemon, Super Mario, and Zelda, I don't see any movement in Japanese stuff at all.
But that's like most of the sealed game market. I don't think it's fair to say just outside of like the big things. Like, if you calculate the market share, I think market cap of those games, that's probably like 70% of the market.
Nah, I don't know. I mean, it's the tier 1 games, of course. Like, if you want to like rank the franchises into tiers, that you take away the whole tier 1 with those games. But the whole tier 2 and 3, like half of the games we discussed, or like even take Dragon Quest and stuff like that, that's all still there, and there's no movement.
Now, the Dragon Quest is going up a bit. And
yeah,
stuff
a bit,
like that
but
as well. Yeah,
and
but
some of the tier 2
sorry.
are also US, right? Like Halo, I would not care about the Japanese Halo. Even like it's just a US game, so then it's different. I think it kind of needs to be Japanese. So Sony can still work, Microsoft not so much.
Yeah, just as Trevor said, it needs to be like, the appeal is that it's first print.
Mm-hmm.
And if it didn't release first in Japanese or in Japan in general, I don't know, there's less of an appeal there. That's for sure.
Yeah, but even the stuff that was Japanese developed, right? Like, for example, Silent Hill, Resident Evil. I think that stuff is still weak as a Japanese release, because I would still buy Japanese stuff for it, but just I don't think it makes sense to use that argument that is entirely based on what if versus what we already know, especially because those original games are the things that people have nostalgia for. Those are the things that people want. And those technical representations of something. I think that is too much of a hypothetical situation, and I think it's just overvalued at this current moment because of the hype behind Pokemon, because of the hype behind PSA creating more Japanese stuff now, because of the idea of how things work in cards, etc.
Yeah, of course, it's driven by investment. Like, for example, you didn't grow up with Essential Red, and neither did I, and we still want that. And that's also only because, not only, but that's like an investment thing, because it is a hyped version of a game, and we didn't grow up with that specific version. So I think that's like the same thing if people invest into Japanese stuff.
I don't think so, because first of all, I could play the US version Red Century. I could understand, I can read it, but also I think it is the institution, right? There's decades of game collecting, and sure, it's not sealed game collecting, but there's decades of experience of learned preference in these US games, in these European games even. And sure, in Japan, there's probably learned preference for these games, but that is not the rest of the world. And I think there's a huge barricade between Japanese and Western. And sure, European is segmented, but UK, Paul, European stuff, US people can get, they can understand it. But I can't understand Japanese. I can understand like the importance behind it, but I can't do anything with it, right? Even hypothetically. And I think that is an important part that is understated right now.
I don't think that matters at all, in my opinion. And from the whole like experience part, then we could just focus on CIB, and we understand CIB collecting here. So let's just say the unopened stuff is a little foreign, then collect CIB first print, I guess.
Yeah, I think CIB is even worse.
Yeah, but we have established, like you said, collecting CIBs in the West. So
yeah, but I think I think the CIB collecting especially is more heavily dependent on the utility. And I think if you want to make the argument that all those other elements matter, like first appearance, first release, etc., it needs to be new or mint or sealed or whatever. And then even in those conditions, I think it's still a bit of a weaker argument.
Okay, look, fair enough. I super disagree, but I don't see that as like a negative at all, that we don't understand it. Like we said before, we won't play the games. We don't care if Switch is dead inside the cartridge. And I also don't care if I can't read Japanese, because I will basically grade it and then it's inside a slab anyways.
Yeah, but it's not about if you can play the game you are buying. It's about the thing it represents. The game it represents you cannot play. And
for me, it's actually also the form factor. Like US and PAL games, they sometimes differ a tiny bit in their cases. But for me, the emotional connection is also with the box I bought and opened at the time, and kind of how it is shaped. It sounds weird, but I've always personally had a problem with all the different form factors of Japanese games. Like the 3 different Famicom sizes. It's just, but maybe if you get more into it, it will feel natural to you eventually. But for me at the moment, it doesn't. And I don't have that with PAL versus US.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I don't think that's an issue for future value with them. But I mean, that's not even too hard. Like when we break it down, it's not that of a hot take. I just don't agree with it, I guess.
Yeah, okay, but then do you want me to make it more like specific?
I mean, you could, but I would just disagree with you even more.
Yeah, I think it's hot enough.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Because it goes against the whole current tide of the market. I think most people that are in the current, like even I to some extent disagree, but not because of the state of the markets, but because of the amount of noise about it, I guess. Because I still, despite saying this, I will still buy Japanese stuff and I will still speculate on it and I will still do well probably with it. But I think just long term, it's kind of dead, in my mind at least. Like, maybe not Pokemon, but like most of it is, I think.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
Yeah, fair. All right, I saved my hottest one for last. It's really spicy. In a year, we will have CGC pop reports.
we already have the best one there. Basically, could be, I guess.
No, I'm just kidding. That was not it.
Yeah, because it's not happening anyway.
Yeah, it would be pretty odd. But
Poor
My actual one
CGC.
is also with the 2 other grading companies, and I have no inside knowledge about this. This is pure speculation. But my hot take is PSI will acquire VGA. So the parent company collectors will buy VGA. And my take behind it is VGA was recently, they changed ownership. They actually are doing stuff. They switched to the unified scale, which might also be a signal to make yourself a bit pretty to eventually being bought up by the other companies that use that scale. They are modernizing. They're actually doing AdWords. They're hiring new people. And we've seen the same thing with PSA and BGS, right? And I think VGA has quite some, similarities to BGS in some ways. And there would be real utility for PSA to do this because suddenly they could cover every size, which they can't right now. And they will never, as long as they stick to their current cases, which they should. So while I have like I said, no inside knowledge, nothing, I think this kind of would make sense. I don't think it would be a good thing because of competition. And I actually would be happy because I prefer grading with PSA. But from a long-term market perspective, you need competition and you don't want a monopoly, obviously. But I could see it happen.
My question would just be, why didn't they buy them when the bankruptcy happened?
That's
because they were for sure the cheapest they would ever be right then.
But I think at that point, inside collectors, PSA video games had a much weaker stance. I think they were not in the position to expand it further. But I feel like right now we're seeing them establishing themselves, so they hopefully don't end up like Funko Pops, because that would be tragic. But I don't see it happening. I think there's growth in PSA video games, and I feel like at some point they might think, "Oh wow, this market has gotten a lot more interesting again. Let's expand further."
So in your mind, would they just buy out the VGA division? Or would they buy the whole shebang? What's the word?
Yeah.
And CGA as well, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the tough part about it, and that's why it's a hot take. I think that would be complicated because I don't know if they want a toy part for collectors. Maybe they also have interest in it. Maybe it would be possible to just buy VGA. I don't know. But yeah, it is a hot take. I just thought this could be something that could eventually happen.
Trevor?
Yeah, I was thinking because I don't think it's necessarily a hot take because I agree with it.
Damn. Okay.
But I don't think it will be in a year. I guess that is the hot take part. I think it will happen because I think CGC is not going to do it because I think CGC has a lot of, despite how terrible they are right now, they have a lot of merit in offering different styles of grading that goes beyond the value of just the department. I think the one-stop shop element of these grading options is worth like 10x what the department itself is worth, just for brand loyalty. And I also think they are probably there are probably investors that are interested in keeping them alive and floating just for the competition element. Like in a rising tide, all boats rise, right? But I think that with how VGA, and I think the company is called Diamond Collectibles or something.
But those were the ones who went bankrupt.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, okay. Well, Evil VGA and the whole shebang is to me, it really does look like they are positioning themselves to be acquired. Like they're cleaning up production, they're cleaning up some inconsistencies. They are doing more, like they're doing the media stuff now, which I think they are doing to both scare PSA a little bit because they also grade DVD CDs, but they can't do most sizes, and also to be more appealing to have them buy everything, right? Because then they can also do iPhones and they can also do AirPods and all that stupid stuff, the hype stuff, the stuff that people might want to do for fun. And then if it's PSA, it might actually get some headlines instead of like a stupid what is it called, MGA. So I think it makes sense. It doesn't have to be that way, but I can see it happening. And I think a year is a very short amount of time, but I do think if the market takes off, they might be more interested in trying. And I think VGA would be open to the proposition.
Like my thing is, like when I'm thinking through it, they wouldn't really gain a lot because they can grade all sizes. Okay, fair enough. But would they slap the PSA brand on it or keep it rolling as they did with Wata for a while? If they would do that, would that meet their quality standards? Because they're rolling out new quality standards with cards. They did it with PSA. Because as we all know, for protection, VGA, not the best. Would they want to, have that as a liability because people will just assume, oh, it's a new PSA system, I guess, because people don't know games. They will have those slaps in hand. They will realize, okay, bad quality, it will hurt my game, or it will just even ship broken, as we know it often does with like consoles and stuff like that. So would they just keep it without the PSA name? Would they slap PSA on it? Is that worth the hassle that you get with like negative publicity?
Yeah, but I don't think they are going to buy them to use them. I think it will be like SGC, where they will just buy them and then let them die. I think they the angle, at least for acquisition from VGA, is to be as competent as possible to pose a threat, and for PSA it would just be to eliminate competition. And I think they will just slowly and shitify everything. Right? I think they will just make wait times longer, be less consistent, create issues, maybe downsize. I think they will. I think there is that interest, and maybe keep the custom size stuff rolling, but make it as distinct from PSA as possible. I think it would be a way to lessen the competition for them.
Okay, I can see that scenario when they only buy VGA, but when they buy the whole thing, that is profitable, I'm sure. Like the whole toy stuff and stuff like that. And they wouldn't shut something down that's profitable or like makes good money. And if you keep it open for toys, why not just keep it open for games and stuff like that as well? Because I'm fairly certain those are the same people that create most of that stuff. I don't think they have like a huge amount of different stuff. And yeah, I can only see it if they actually would like only solely buy the VGA part of it, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we're not business analysts, right?
Yeah.
But it's just it just, to me, it seems plausible because of the behavior PSA has been exhibiting with them buying a lot of stuff, as well as them seemingly being interested in having more of a monopoly on the their markets, at least. I'm not sure of the specifics, but I think it is not unlikely that it happens. That would
Hey,
be
maybe that would even get blocked because, of monopoly stuff.
Yeah, but by who? Like right now, everything.
The US government?
Goes through. Yeah, but the US government doesn't care for anything right now. It's such a small business.
Didn't they like raise concerns with the whole Paramount merger with Warner Bros?
That's like one of the biggest mergers in history. Like that is a bit of a different scale.
It is the biggest merger in graded stuff, I guess. Yeah, fair enough, I guess.
No, but I also think there's some hurdles. But if we look at the trace of what happened with PSA buying up competitors, and if we look at how VGA positions themselves now, I don't think it's impossible. I feel like there are some hurdles. I feel like they would go the BGS way of keeping it a separate brand, just keeping it rolling, and just offering like the custom sizes, and that the custom sizes would be the main gain they would have. I agree though, Lawrence, that's also something that went through my mind. Do they want these inconsistent types of cases?
Yeah.
Because that's weird for your brand in a way. If one case is just a completely different type, way more fragile than your normal case. So maybe that's something that would hold them back.
I also don't know if they really want the odd sizes, because I don't think there's a lot of money in that. Like the money PSA makes is like with volume and like just, knocking out the same sizes.
I think the like I said for CGC, I think the money is in the one-stop shop element and not in the specific grading of those items. I think having the option to do it creates a lot of brand loyalty and creates a lot of attention. Like I think the fact that those items are displayed are unique pieces, that marketing is invaluable in some ways.
Yeah, maybe. Good hot take.
Thanks.
That was a fun discussion, I guess.
So, Lawrence, what's your last one?
Yeah, my last one, because when you first said hot takes, I didn't necessarily think only graded. My mind just went to games, I guess.
Sure.
And my hot take is, I don't know if anyone can actually add anything to that discussion. I think that's like a niche interest of mine. But my hot take is that Pokemon basically stole its whole idea and thing from Dragon Quest, because like half of their like OG designs from Pokemon are 10 years younger than the Dragon Quest designs. Like, when did they come out with most of their monsters? 86, 85? And Pokemon was realistically released 95, 96. So my hot take is Pokemon is just basically a huge knockoff and ripoff, I guess.
Yeah, I think it may be a hot take, but I also don't think it matters that much. because the quality of the game is not the unique idea, it's the quality of the designs and the quality of the experience. So I guess if it's a ripoff, it doesn't really matter in my eyes.
The quality of the designs was great with Dragon Quest.
Yeah, I know, but like,
Let me
I
check
guess
some
time
of
and
them.
place. I guess time and place, because I know it is strongly a strong design language, but I also think that it's a bit too samey. It's a bit too Japanese RPG monster type, and I know that they have been super influential in that regard. But I don't think they have the mass appeal. I don't think they look
No.
different enough. I
Yeah.
think they are similar to like demons in the Shin Megami Tensei games and Persona games. I think they have super unique designs, but I think they're too linked to other things like fantasy, like mythology, like things that are not super marketable. And you have the slime for Dragon Quest, and that is one that is super marketable. And then they also do market him, right? But I don't think with Pokemon they just hit the nail on the head with everything is super marketable. And I think it also depends on when it released. I think, but perhaps Dragon Quest was just a bit ahead of its time with the way it had to represent these things, because it was I think with colors like Pokemon games released right before the Game Boy Color and stuff. I think they got more potential with bright stuff, more simplistic game design, and all that stuff. I think it's just time and place and the quality of the game itself.
Yeah, I don't disagree. They have like 0 star power left in the West, I feel like. Like they do fairly well with certain titles, but especially like the monster part of things, they sold so bad that they just stopped releasing half of that stuff in the West and just kept them Japanese exclusives. Yeah.
But I think also that the design is everything. I think the initial 151 Pokemon, that's an all-time design. Cool.
Yeah.
Like they just, the density of memorable designs where people actually, like, you look at them and you either find them super cute or super cool, and this goes for like generations. That is a lot of what made Pokemon great. Because it's
Yeah,
also
there's like I don't know, a handful bad designs in like the whole first 2 or 3 gens, I guess.
Yeah,
and
I
you
agree.
can see that they struggle to recreate this now because the
Yeah.
current Pokemon designs are
100%.
just not nothing. Like,
Yeah.
and I think it's also because they are too big to fail, in the sense that they are not able to innovate at all. They just they are having to take the safe route. Every single
Yeah.
Pokemon probably has like 20 meetings. Like, do we do this? Do we have this? And I think back in the day, it's probably just like one guy that's drawing them on like out of 20 every day, right?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see that with their games. Like they can't innovate, and when they do, it's just super sort of polished to an extent where it's just not fun. Like the old games were cool because the whole mystery and nobody knew anything, and it was not polished at all. Like the first gen games were like from a lens now, super bad games, full of bugs, like severely unbalanced, and people love them still.
Yeah,
So not a hot take, I guess.
No,
it's still
it's a funny conversation.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not sure which one I should say. So I guess I'll say 2, because I don't think these are super hot takes, but I still think I should say them. One kind of links to the PC one, in the sense that I think, I mean, this is kind of a running theme in this hobby, but I think a lot of people still disagree, especially outside of the Silt space. I think the era of niche stuff is over. And I think a lot of the what I just said earlier, I think people overvalue the safety net that is created by high-end CIB. So, for example, what Sean from Reserved Investments, he really likes those like Sega Saturn games, the TurboGrafx stuff. But I think those are actually traps, because not only is it a liquidity trap, it is also a false sense of security. You think, okay, I'm safe because these are like, even if I can't like make money on it, the CIB is so high that I will at least like have a long-term break even. But I think there will come a point where the demand is so low for these that they will just start selling for less than they are selling now. And I think that era will come. And I think this is also the same with popular stuff. I think the era of like, for example, a 70 USD Smash Melee Black Label CIB, I think that's also going to be over in like the coming 5 years. I think that stuff, especially from that era, is going to go up more than it has in the past. Because the even though the quantity is super high, like the supply is high, there is so much more organic demand from people wanting to play these games than there is from those niche rare titles that are only collected because collectors think they're rare, right? And I think that type of collecting has already died in a lot of senses in different hobbies. And I think game collecting is one of the examples where it's still relevant, even though it doesn't really make any sense in context to how game collecting works. Because it makes sense for coins, it makes sense for other stuff, but it doesn't make any sense for how game collecting is typically seen. And another one, I guess, to link into that, I think Black Box NES is kind of bad for long term. Kind of really bad.
Like, I thought you had like a super balanced and polished take, nothing hot, and then you like scoot in like in the last seconds with the Black Box take. Okay.
Well, so on the first point, I mean, yeah, it won't surprise you, Trevor. I fully agree. I think it all boils down, and I think reserved investment, it's in his name, right? Risk aversion and loss aversion, especially. People hate losing money. Even if they would double on one game and lose 50% on the next, they would feel worse than making 10% on 2 games, even though they would end up with more money in the first case. And it comes from that mindset. You don't want to lose. You're like, I'm afraid and I get it, because these are very speculative investments in its nature. All games are. So you're searching for the safe haven of security. But I agree that is not the most important thing. And it often really, really limits your upside for kind of a fake security that you're buying into.
Yeah.
And
because I think people just, they like in normal investments, this is genuinely a thing where it's just overvalued for safe investments. Blue chip stocks are overvalued. But also I think in games it's especially overvalued because it's so speculative, because people wrongly associate that safety with these games that have never really proven that safety.
Also, why would you look for like the most secure thing in alternative investments? Like, we are here because it's A, fun, and B, you have really high upside, but also really high downside.
Yeah, and it also just doesn't align with the whole thesis of sealed game collecting, but that's another story entirely. Yeah, but the black box stuff, do you agree?
I don't know if I agree with the black box stuff. Like, maybe as a whole, I guess. But
I mean, of course, Mario 1 I think is the exception.
Yeah. We can take away like the whole tier 1 stuff, I guess. But
that's just Mario 1 in my opinion. But okay.
Okay, fair enough, I guess. No, but would you like? Don't you think like a Duck Hunt or stuff like that will like retain decent value?
Some merit.
Yeah, I think some of them have merit. Duck Hunt. What's the other one? The Excite Bike, I think, is decent. I think maybe a strong maybe on the Mario Bros arcade and Donkey Kong arcade. That's about it. I think the rest is like, yes, it's super cool as a collector, right? I'm not saying these are bad games, but I think as a link to the niche stuff dying, I think these will not perform as people expect them to.
Okay, maybe not perform like they did like the last.
No, not that they did. I think people are expecting them to grow. That people, high-end people will want sets. I don't think they will.
I made the same take on the hobby speculators when I wanted to say something that won't go up. I really agree with that but I think it's a generational thing actually. But that is also part of the reason. The people driving this new wave that's coming in to games right now, I would say their age is kind of like 25 until 40, maybe, the majority of the people. And those people only care about it if people tell them they should care. But they don't organically care about these rare black box titles. And this story needs to be repeated. And I don't think the story is strong enough. I think for a few things, the story is actually strong enough to hold them up. Like maybe even a stadium events.
I agree.
But the black box story for me is not big enough.
No, especially because it's not such in CIB. It's also not a very big story, right? It's more recent that these super rare variants are so expensive. Like, yes, of course, there were always niche collectors, but it's as someone that was collecting, like, okay, I was collecting Paul, but like, there's no Paul YouTube content, so I was watching game collecting stuff for like 10 years, 15 years before I even started thinking about sealed, and I never heard about most of the stuff I hear about in sealed collecting, even though the CIB stuff does also sell for a lot of money. So it's something that only a very few people know, and I think it is even if people are taught this, I think the importance is overblown.
Okay, with that I can agree that it's overblown maybe, but I think they solidified themselves enough, like your point with the stadium events, Tim. Like, they will do okay in the near future. I don't know if that will continue forever. I don't know if it will, be huge upsides from here on out. But I don't think that's like on the verge of dying out, the demand for black box, I guess.
I mean, I guess if you are supposing that the market goes up, then being decent, I think, is similar to dying in the sense that you have that liquidity tied up. It's a lot of money for game collecting, right? Like the average black box early print is like 30K and in a decent condition. And I think chasing that idea of what people want is just the wrong way to go about sealed game investing, I guess. And it's really hard to say because at the same time, I think it's a genuinely super cool collector set, right? So if you are just a passionate NES fan, there's nothing wrong with going for them. But I think people act, especially people that are in these positions to afford these things, act like these will be something that people will want. And I think that is just categorically wrong. I don't think people will want these. I think people will not want sets. I don't think people will want the purple box Capcom set on the NES. I don't think people will want any sets. I think people will want DuckTales. I think people will want what's the Chippendale, and that's it. I don't think they will want Little Mermaid. I don't think they will want DuckTales 2. All that stuff. I'm sure some people will want it, but I don't think the general collector will want it. I think if people want Pokemon Emerald and maybe not Leaf Green and Fire Red, for example.
I do think sets can have power. Like they can raise a game up. So if it's a nice set and if this market grows, there will be some effect if there's like a rare set completing game, because there will be a few people that care and it's really rare. And then it's like supply of 10, but 20 people care. So there can still be this rise in price for some rare stuff. But I agree with what you said. Like, I think people will care, but the games are just so expensive right now. That's my main point. They're just in proportion. Do I want, I would say, a random black box title, or do I want a 9.6 A plus later print SMB? It's both on the same console, right? I am very confident the 9.6 A plus SMB is going to outperform it in the next year.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're both on the same console, so I think it's kind of a fair comparison.
I mean, even if you look at, this was also something I had prepared, even if you look at the Pokemon argument, right? The people say like, oh, the people collect sets, Yanma, 100K. But if you look at the actual specifics of those markets, the things, even in the low pop 10s, the ones that go up first and go up the most are the low pop 10s that are of popular Pokemon. And then the popular set cards. And only after that do people go after the weird stuff, the less known stuff, the Yanmas, the I don't know any others, but just the Expedition, the low pop reverses, all that weird stuff that still is going up a lot. This is like the ideal, like 1 in a million scenario, right? This low pop pump in Pokemon. And even then you would have been better off just buying the good stuff and not the super niche, super rare, low pop 10 of Pokemon that no one cares about. And I understand, as a collector, you want a set, and there's nothing wrong with as a collector wanting the set. But I think it is wrong to push the narrative that these will go up as an investment in the same sense that a Pokemon Red or Mario SMB, Super Mario 1 will, like late print, oval, whatever.
I don't think we disagree. I just think we disagree on the severity of it. But
no, I think it will be pretty severe. I think it's actually. I think it will take a lot for this market to also accept those more niche things, especially with how much there is to collect. And I'm not saying these will be worthless. I mean, they will always be worth thousands and thousands. But I think, I think there is a future where the market is up like 5x and these black boxes are still the same as they are now.
Yeah, or 1.5x. If the market is 5x, I think they will go up, but not proportionally. That would be my.
I agree with that.
All right. So now we're coming to my pump, which is also a bit of a hot take in itself.
Fun.
I already hinted at it a bit. Let's see. So the pump of the week is actually sports games. So yeah, that is a bit of a hot take, and I feel like I'm going to have a tough crowd here. But hear me out. So on the left, just to show these two games, of course, Madden is already a really expensive game. It sold for a ton once. I think shortly after John Madden died, actually. So it had got a bit of an occasion pump, I would say.
Yeah, to be fair, that one was also from the offices of John Madden, right? Yeah.
So it has something special to it, and it was, I think, also the funds were donated to the charity behind John Madden. I'm not 100% sure.
It sold for a lot of money.
On the left is my Pop 1 FIFA 1 US. It's the only first print. I think it's pretty cool. It's for PC, but that's actually not the main thing I think that is good about sports games. By the way, Trevor is sharing these slides for me because my computer has some issues. So I will have to tell him, go to the next slide. This feels like school again. Please go to the next slide.
Yeah, okay.
So why should you care? First of all, and I think this is the biggest argument, sports card pros equals money. And they spend money on everything. And they're maybe even crazier than the Pokemon TCG people. They spent money on cards that were printed 1 year ago. They will spend $1 million on like artificial rarity. They don't care. So it doesn't take a lot. We just need to convince a few of them.
Oh, yeah.
And then the second point, this will be one that I think is super unexplored, is the concept of rookie cards in sports cards is really, really big. And sports games, the major ones, they have the biggest stars on their cover. And they have them for multiple years. Sometimes they have them early in their career. And there's an appeal, in my opinion, to collecting the rookie cover of big stars in the different sport games. And I will go into that later a bit more. Then I have sport games are like OG multiplayer games to me. They started on couch competition, I guess. And they seamlessly transitioned to the online era. They're still ultra relevant. Everyone played them. I think next to Mario Kart, the game I've played the most with friends is FIFA. And that's because I'm European and I like football, but I'm sure for a lot of Americans, that's Madden. They've played a ton of Madden with their friends. It's a very social game. People really care. And therefore, it's also some of the best-selling games of all time come from the sports cards world. And yeah, it's mostly dirt cheap. I think there's almost like a stigma against sports games for that reason in CRB collecting, where it's like, oh, it's another FIFA. It's like a €2 game. But my argument would be, the same could have been said about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 before people cared about the sealed version. They were also super cheap and you could find them on eBay. You can still find them on eBay for a few dollars.
I mean, all right.
What do you want to say?
I mean, you cannot find them sealed for a few dollars on eBay.
No, but I think the CIB image of sports games is dragging down the sealed market at the moment. Because CIB collectors have such a shovelware image of sport games due to them being so cheap as CIB. Because not all of them are super available as sealed, actually. I have looked into it a bit. And some of them, just like other modern games, are not that easy to find sealed in a nice condition. And the last point is, and that is going to be also the next slide, there's so much curation left to do. So if you go to the next slide, I can explain a bit what I mean.
Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is a sports game to you.
Well,
I think it counts.
I think it does
Tony
because
Hawk?
it's also valuable because of Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I think I agree because are we recording again yet? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I think it counts because what you say, it's heavily marketed as Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. And if you what you say about Tony Hawk, I think Tony Hawk also counts.
Yeah. I think I would probably count Tony Hawk as well. That's true. I also put NBA Elite 11 in there. It has a special story where the game was so shitty that it got cut before release. So it's incredibly rare for that reason. But again, I think the fact that Kevin Durant, who's one of the top 20 greatest basketballers of all time and has a lot of fans, is on there, does also help the game. I think it does matter. If there was a really, really bad player who was a bust and in the end didn't amount to anything on the cover, I think it would be worth less. There's the Kobe games. Greg is a big fan of Sega Kobe. He's been a long-time believer. I also like him. I have a PAL Kobe NBA Courtside. I think that is the coolest Kobe game, in my opinion. But the rookie one is indeed the Sega. And of course, there's the Madden games. And FIFA also has some decent prices, but there wasn't like a crazy sale yet for FIFA. So I put it in brackets. But yeah, to the curation part, which I think is by far the most interesting. So I took FIFA because that's the game I know and I like. And it exists since 1994. So the first one didn't even have a name of a year next to it. Since then, they, of course, added the year. They got rid of the FIFA brand eventually, but it's essentially still the same game as EAFC. And from 98 on, they introduced cover stars. The first one was David Beckham, huge popularity, not even just in sports. At FIFA 13, you had the first FIFA Messi cover, which I think could be a big thing eventually. I feel like I know there are a few people who actually already collect this CIB, the covers of certain players. I think it could be a lot bigger. I think it could really be pumped. And it's not only Messi. FIFA 98 Beckham. 99, you had Bergkamp, a really popular Dutch player. 2002, you had Thierry Henry, really big French legend. Ronaldinho in FIFA 06. FIFA 06 also is a really, really popular FIFA title. Of people really liked playing it. Same with FIFA 13. And if you go to the next slide, interestingly enough, the FIFA 13 Messi cover wasn't even the first Messi cover, but on PES, which is a competitor of FIFA, I actually played it at the time. It's a pretty good game, but it's kind of a sad Sega situation where it's very dead these days. But at the time it was relevant enough that they could afford Messi as their cover star. So his rookie cover a few years earlier is actually from Pro Evolution Soccer. And the same for Cristiano Ronaldo, who next to Messi is also the biggest football star. He was already on the 2008 cover.
So was this EU only?
No. So this is Pro Evolution Soccer is a Konami title, and I think it released also everywhere globally.
Oh, okay.
They do have, which is also another interesting part, but that I skipped it here because then it gets too nitty gritty. They have regional cover stars. So often they have one global cover star, and then the secondary cover star depends on the region. So you would have in Germany, it would release with Messi and a German player, and then in the UK with Messi and the UK player, which makes that you can go even deeper and then find your favorite player on the regional covers and then their rookie. And this is a pump that I haven't really done myself yet, but I'm also sure that if you really go in, the prints have not even really been established on these games. So they could be, or I'm almost certain for some of these rookie games, there's also a first print that's fairly rare, that is differentiated either with a sticker or there's just a printing error or a second release. And finding those sealed, chasing the high grades and making nice sets of important players, bringing them to sport card conventions and showing them off. In the PSA case, I think the PSA brand would add huge value to this compared to when it was Vata. I think it's a great investment. I hope someone in the comments does it, or I will do it eventually. But I really believe in it. I think I think this is actually something that is penny stocks right now and has huge upside. If you find the right versions that are actually rare, you get the mint copies of them now, you introduce the idea of these games and the rookie covers to some players, I think they could have amazing returns. So yeah, that's just
oh yeah, okay.
That's just
So I'm not a sport. Sorry.
Yeah, the last point I wanted to say, PSA also offers authentication of signatures, right? I think that's another opportunity. Even taking a CIB Messi cover, because football players, they sign a lot of stuff during training and stuff, but it's often cards or like albums or shirts. But being one of the first people who collects the signatures on these rookie covers and sending them to PSA, I think it's also just cool to own, like taking the pump part aside. But I think it would also be a pretty interesting play. Yeah, it was my pump.
I like it as a collector. I'm not sure as an investor because, and you need to help me out here because I'm not a sports guy except for combat sports. And isn't the whole soccer/football thing much bigger in Europe than it is in the US?
Yeah, absolutely. But I chose FIFA here. I think you can apply the complete same logic to Madden or to NBA games. So they all follow the same recipe of having these cover stars, and they are usually also the biggest stars. But one thing I forgot to add is I think the players themselves might even be one of your buyers, because I know at least for football, every player plays FIFA. They play it all the time. They're obsessed with it. They know their ratings. They even cooperate with EA to make these special cards of themselves, and then they market it. So if you find these players as your buyers for finding like special Messi games or stuff, they have infinite funds, and you see it with sports cards where they buy them for a lot of money themselves.
I mean, yeah, I think, as much as I dislike sports games, I completely agree. I think the downside is so low on this, and I think unlike a lot of the fake safe stuff, this is actually just, you are still going by the thesis statement of sealed games, right? Popularity, demand, differentiating yourself from CIB, organic rarity, and also you are incorporating a new element, which is the rookies and the cover stars. And I think it just makes sense. It's just something I have no passion for. I don't like sports. I mean, I don't dislike sports, but I personally have nothing with sports. This is just not a type of collecting I am drawn to. But I think theoretically, what you say makes perfect sense.
Okay, that's more agreement than I expected. So
I mean, it's hard to disagree with stuff that's so cheap. right?
Yeah.
Like if it was already thousands, like yes, maybe your FIFA is worth millions, but I mean the average sports game sealed is worth nothing. And I think that is just so hard to argue against, because what is the worst thing that happens? It doesn't go up.
I think the curation left to do is actually the most exciting part about it, because I really have never heard anyone looking into these prints, but I'm sure they exist, and I actually have it on my list of stuff I want to do at some point for the players I also like, to just look into it, look what exists.
To me, as someone that doesn't care about these games, that sounds about the most boring thing in the world. So if you say it's exciting, for me it's like, yeah.
Fair.
But you have like a near infinite potential buyer pool, because even if like super nerdy stuff that we played, I had a lot of friends that weren't gamers at all, but nearly all of them, at least in Switzerland, they played FIFA. That was like, doesn't matter. They played basically GTA and FIFA. They played no games, but those they played. So I think that's a pretty good pick. I don't know if the pump will actually happen on that, but there's a lot of cool stuff there.
I think the one thing that might be hard is deciding which one, because they release every year. Yes, you have the rookie stars, but I think there is also, because these games are typically like year over year, they're basically the same game. I think it will be hard to define the one that people will want, but also just buy them all, right? Just buy every single one. Like probably that entire picture you had of all the prints, I think except for maybe the first one, you were probably done with €1,000 USD. Just have one of each. Probably that, if not less. And yeah, I'm sure there's some that are hard to find, and I'm sure there's some that are maybe not so cheap. But I think it's relatively inexpensive, and it's just essentially risk free, because even if they don't take off, they don't take off, they will be niche. And if it's niche greatest stuff will eventually sell for more than it should, just because there's no others available for on the market. So even if it doesn't do anything, you can still get out of it probably.
No. And yeah, I do think that because we saw it with Pokemon, and I think that the PSA brand is so strong here. I feel like this is 10 times as possible now that it's a red PSA label than before, actually.
I don't know. What might be an issue is that there's not a lot of cross-continental buyer pools, I guess, because I don't know how many US people played FIFA, and I don't know how many European people played Madden, I guess. So that might limit it. But yeah, that's like the whole downside I see.
Yeah, but I don't think it matters too much, because if you look at first of all, the cards have the same issue, and they still have markets. I think the Messi Rookie cards are like millions, and also like the European market is still a huge market, and I think even people that don't collect sealed and graded in general would maybe want one of these, and I don't think that is a big issue. I think if anything, that's an opportunity.
But yeah,
Fair enough.
I'm curious if we're gonna see it. I mean, if I would do it, I would do it for FIFA, because there I have the knowledge. For Madden, I would have no idea, absolutely none, where to even start. But I could also see someone doing. I also think there are probably people who already collect this stuff, but just not in the connection to sealed, and they're not in our bubble. But I know I sometimes see some Germans asking for certain FIFAs that are fairly rare in the game groups, just saying, does someone have this FIFA? And yeah, but when they buy it for like €40, because it's just about finding them. So yeah, that's still very niche.
I think I will buy a few, but it's also like I will probably forget about this in like a day, because I just have no passion for it. Absolutely none. Like I think as a money making thing it might work, but it's like the most boring thing ever. But I guess in general that's good, right? The more boring it is, the better.
Yeah, but it's also because that's how I felt about manga. Where I was like, I know this is going to pump, but I just don't have a connection to it. So I think then it's also totally fair, because if you don't have the connection, the research is, like you said, it's also not fun.
Yeah.
It feels like
but
studying.
what I'm probably going to do is just maybe buy like one that's more, hopefully grades like a 988++ on like the DVD case ones or whatever. But it's just I actually have one FIFA game. I have a FIFA 14 PS2 PAL UK 968+, but that's just because it was one of the last games released on the system, so I thought it was cool. And it was like I paid like €70 for it, and I think it's like a €200 game.
They still brought these PS2 versions of FIFA for a really long time, right?
Yeah, and they also had like 2020, I think 2020 releases on the PS3. They support the old systems for a long time, because there's such a large install base that doesn't typically play games, and then they just buy the sports game because they don't care about the quality.
Those old versions are always a complete ripoff. because at some point they just switch into the mode where they only update the teams and they don't change anything on their engine anymore. And then you're still paying the same price as the newer gen, but you're getting the old game in a new skin.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Would you go for the PAL versions because it's more European based, or would you just get whatever?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
for FIFA, it would probably also be PAL. I would probably go for a mix. Yeah, for Madden, just US. Madden and NBA, I would just go.
But then which PAL version? That is the difficult one, because I think maybe
German.
Maybe German, yeah.
I mean, as a German, but also from a football market standpoint, I think German, is a good bet.
Just
UK as well, to be honest.
Just UK and German.
Yeah, those
what
two.
What is there to lose? I guess. Yeah, I mean, I guess. But I think the strongest part of it is the signatures. I think sealed or CIB. I think having a cover, iconic cover of not even a rookie cover, just an iconic one.
Mm-hmm.
And having a signature on it, I think, is strong. PSA shared one recently. I think a Messi cover on the PS4 with a signature CIB. I think it was an 8.5 CIB, but the signature was verified. So I think that is a lot more interesting, because it's not as mind-numbing in the sense that there's a lot of it, and also it's probably more speculative in the sense that there's a lot more upside, I think.
One of those items that will appear on Golden in like a month, and it will sell for $20,000, and everyone will be like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, exactly.
No, I always made a hot take towards signed games, actually, because I was getting a bit more into it, thinking a bit more about it, and I feel like there's a lot also still there to be done in general.
I agree, but it's so niche that it is like it is so risky in the sense that it could also do nothing, but it's not that risky because it's not super expensive, and it still has the qualities of things I would like in a hobby like this. So in the sense that I agree, I just think it's cool. It has potential. That's just what I would say.
All right, then let's go to the thermometer to finish this one up. Trevor, you want to start?
No, because I don't know my numbers.
I don't know either. I actually don't know either. But there's a lot to talk about, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe we can skip the thermometer and just talk about the recent developments in the market.
I think it's better because
so much happened.
So our collective dreams, basically came true, or at least like Tim and mine, I guess. And well, it's not only positive because we basically like got priced out of the high-end Pokemon stuff like immediately, but Tim tried to get high grade, like for the last podcast he tried to get like the high grade stuff, which would have been great if he actually was able to buy something. And then like the $2 million Pokemon sale happened, and shortly after the Japanese one,
if someone was living under a rock, it was 1.2 million for Central Red A++, 10 A++, sorry. I think it was 400k or 300k. 400k for yellow first print 10 A++, and then it was the rest of the deal was allocated to the blue red text 98 A++, and it was a total of 2 million. And then there was also a silver 10 A++ that sold for 200k, and then there was the 98 NS late print red Japanese that sold for 150k.
And then the gold that sold for 100k. 10.
No, it was 200, right?
No, the gold I think was 100.
But the gold also.
Sorry, I didn't know the gold, so I meant silver. Yeah, okay. Then it was cheap. I think the 100k for that is cheap.
Yeah.
And then also there were 4 10s graded to yellow second print.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Which kind of killed the hype a bit, I think, unfortunately. But we talked about it a bit on Hobby Speculators, that was maybe not the best timing for it to happen. But yeah,
or just to like announce it the way they did, maybe. I would have kept that under wraps. As much as possible.
I said the exact same thing on the other podcast, but I have to mention it to everyone who's considering buying a case pack. There are God packs in TCG. This was a God case. You cannot expect to get.
It was way better than a God pack. A God pack is like one in 6,000. This is like 1 in a million. This is like the only case pack ever that is great.
It's not reproducible. Do not try this at home, kids.
You were looking at this case pack and you were worried you weren't even going to hit 110. And that is like the average expected result, no 10s.
And this is like with this case type, that the double ender, a box of 9 6s is not impossible. You can even get no 9 8. It has happened before with similar games in the same type. So this was the best outcome you could ever hope for.
A Nintendo 64 case from the same seller had 196 and the rest was 92
Exactly.
or 85s. It was the same seller.
So it was really the absolute best case scenario. It's a bit too many tens for the market in a way. I think it will absorb fine in the long term, but I heard it scared some people because they don't know how special this is. So they thought, okay, a case pack equals 10 kind of, but that's not true.
Maybe they think it matters, but it really doesn't matter in my opinion. I think it's just the calm before the storm now if it's a bit of a cool down. I don't think it shouldn't matter as if at all, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I said in the group, I'm the one that always says case packs don't matter, basically.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those scenarios when there's 4 that it matters in like the, I don't know, short term for sure, and like mid-terms maybe as well a little bit. There was like, I don't know what the number is, like a 3% chance to hit a 9.8 A++. And like from the whole pop. And then they hit 4 10s, which is insane. Yeah. They won't sell for anything close to what they would sell for if like just one popped up for a while. And maybe it will even hurt a little bit the 9.8 A++ because, 10s are available. So why get a 9.8 A++? But in the long run, I don't know.
But I also don't really agree even because I think people are overblowing this impact because I think even in the medium term, more availability generally doesn't really kill a market. If anything, it strengthens a market. And I don't think 4 is that many. And I also don't think because any person that is competent in this market will understand that this is not normal. And this is also a case pack that doesn't really exist that much anymore. Because there used to be more of these, not that many ever, but a little bit more. And now I don't think since this one, I don't think there has been any seen in like years. And also I think the people that are buying this are not the people that are participating vocally in these chats. I think the person that will see one of these will just bid on it because it's a 10 and then they see 4 more and maybe those the subsequent ones will go for less, sure. But I think it will do nothing for the 9.8 A++ price, and I think it will, like even in the medium term, these will be gone, and it will not matter at all. If anything, it will just strengthen the market.
Yeah, the buyer of the gold and silver is in the chat. So
yeah, okay, but I mean, I'm not saying these people are not there. I'm saying these are not the people that are like speculating on this stuff and participating vocally. I think, if anything, it's in their best interest to act like it will matter, but I don't think it actually matters for their buying decision, unless they are actually entirely new, which is possible, I guess.
I think,
yeah, like the $2 million sell guy, that is a TCG guy. I don't think he had ever sold games before.
Yeah,
do we know who it is?
I don't.
Okay, yeah, I don't.
But
think
he did know games because, like, in the interview with the Nostalgic's Fault, he said like he knew that the red was the most expensive one, and then so he knew enough to at least be somewhat accurate in the valuation.
Mm.
And I think there are enough people in his circle, I guess, that can tell him, look, yes, this is a bit of a supply shock, but it also doesn't really matter in the long term, and it's also like it's like the first time this has ever happened in his hobby, right?
But that's what I would call it, a temporary like confidence shock for a few of them. I think they were very new and they saw this 10 as this super safe haven grade. And I think for some of them, they at least were like, ooh, is it really as safe as I thought it is? But I feel like people who are actually in the hobby longer know that it's still pretty safe and it's not just going to continue. And then there will be 4 10s for every print, every game. That's not going to happen. I'm very confident in Born.
I think if you are looking at it from a pure long-term perspective, I think it would be better for each 10 to have like a couple of them, because I think the value would be higher. Because I think if it's just one, it just kills the market, in my opinion.
I think it usually helps. I agree. If there's a few more, but yeah, towards me chasing the high grades, and like the feeling that I had when it happened. My first feeling was not really being happy about it in a way, because I also had this, okay, now it's actually happening. Now it happened, and now we're all never going to be able to afford any of them again. So, I mean, I still got my hands on a few 9.8s before, so I'm happy about that. But I think the impact on the overall game market is actually going to be what's going to be very interesting in the next few weeks, because that whole ceiling breaking that you mentioned, Trevor. It happened. And I think that next step of cycling into the other big IPs is almost guaranteed to happen. It's just a question of how much money is going to flow, but there's going to be some purchases. And I'm really excited for the next Heritage Signature because there's some really, really high-grade N64 titles coming up that haven't come up in a long time. I think those would be prime candidates to now also get a lot more attention. And there's a lot of other good stuff there.
I think in classic Heritage fashion, it will kind of disappoint. But I think I think in the next year these games will go up quite a bit.
But for
I'm
the
super
Blue
happy
10 is
about it.
already over 100K, right?
Yeah, but that's I don't think that counts
Why not?
because it's so I don't think that falls under the typical popular game underperforming at Heritage. I think that is such a singular game. And I think the Mario 9, 8, A++ is a bit more part of the old guard in the sense that people are not associating that as much with the current pump. And I think it will somewhat fly under the radar. And I think once people see that this sold for like a disappointing quote unquote amount, I think it will still do fine. Like maybe 200, 300K or so, which is up. But I think people will see this amount, think like, why is that not crazy while the rest the Pokemon stuff is, and then I think it will start clicking with people.
So
Okay,
that's
like,
I was wondering your predictions for the Mario 64. So yours 200 to 300K.
Yeah, let's
Trevor?
say let's say 300, which will be strong. It's a strong sale if that happens. Why are you guys disagreeing?
No, I'm wondering. I have a really hard time judging this one actually.
Yeah, because it's based on the fact that the 95 sold for 175 last year. However, when the pump was the super high end 9 A++ sold at Heritage, and then afterwards one sold at Golden, I think there was also a disparity between the 98 A++ and the 95 that sold at that time. I think the 95 sold for like half the 98 A++, which was like 800K to 400K, or maybe even less on the 98 of 95 plus 95.
Didn't
Maybe
that
like,
sold for 250K?
Yeah, maybe it was quite a bit less. And I think the market right now understands more that these grades are pretty similar, if not the same. But I also think that because it's a PSA label, it will inherently do more. So I think that's why the 300K number is, for me, it's up, but it's not up in the way it should be up. I think it's just up in the sense that it's the same people bidding. But it's just more because the game is already a 98 A++ and in a PSA label. I think if it was up from the same people that are pumping Pokemon right now, it would do like 600K.
The PSA label is the one that throws me off. If it wasn't in a PSA case, maybe I would say it would be low, because I think people are generally a little bit afraid of that specific title with all the history behind it. But PSA could help a lot. As an investor and as a buyer in that, I don't know if I would spend more than 200, 250K on that because of the history of the game. And then you couple you basically take the whole Wata, the worst of the Wata stuff, and you drag it into the new thing, which is PSA. I would worry about buying that for a super high price. I'm not sure.
In my mind, that is completely this is not part of it, because I think it's the Mario 64 was obviously the top signal at the time, but I don't think that had anything to do with the game itself. In a sense that it is still that game, right? If there was a top game, it would be either a Mario 64 or some of the other Mount Rushmore games we mentioned. And I think that association is very loose. And I think if you are buying it with that in mind, I think that is maybe I don't think many people are considering that personally, but maybe that's wrong. But I think it doesn't play much of a role at all.
Yeah, I don't know. If an N64 is basically the hottest thing besides Game Boy, I think, right
Game
now.
Boy? Oh, yeah, I guess Pokemon. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And there's other titles you could buy that are super cool and would do really well. I just don't know if you want the headache with the whole Wata stuff, but I agree. I don't know if the potential buyers consider that at all. If those even know about that, those could be new people coming in that don't know anything about that.
Yeah, but you could also flip that on its head, right? It's a game that sold for 1.5 million at one point.
I
Fair
think
enough.
if we see, I actually don't dislike the investment at the price point. You obviously can't afford it, but if it would really go in the 200 to 300,000 range, I think it has nice upside, because if there's a real pump, like a real where it really goes crazy again, I think the old price point would kind of help it to then climb a lot again, because people would be like, yeah, this one was 1.5 and now we're in a new market and we want new highs. And I also just really believe in Mario 64 as a game. I think it's awesome. I think the speedrunning keeps it alive. I think it was a real milestone in gaming history. And if I compare it, this is again black box hate, but sorry, if I compare it to the arcade, which is a really cool game,
way better. No,
but it's going to go for a lot of money, right? I would rather have the Mario 64.
Yeah, same.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but the arcade one is going to sell outside at like 2x for sure.
Yeah,
really?
And then
yeah, you're right. But what also helps the N64 Mario is there's multiples of those.
Yeah, I agree.
I think
I was
that
about
helps.
to say this. I think that market is perfect. I think it's similar to Breath of the Wild, where it's exactly how you would want that market to be shaped. A super hotness in the 8.0 to 9.0 range, where constant transactions are happening, like maybe every month or so. And then you have the CIB market that is also on fire with the super high grade CIB selling for strong amounts now. I think a 9.2 CGC one, which is CGC, so it's ass, sold for 2K. Which for a long time that was like a 1K game.
Yeah,
I think it's just basically one of the only games that has a perfect market in the graded sense. Perfect supply market at least. And demand, of course, it's like one of the most demanded games ever, right?
And you can also see it in that even in the darkest down market, when this game dropped a lot from its high point, people weren't selling their 9.4s and 9.6s because people just want that game, and it's still kind of impossible to find one that's higher than 9.0, and it's been for a long time.
I think since the 800K sale, I think no 9.8s have sold, not even 9.8 A plus. I think maybe one 9.6 A plus has sold, A plus plus I think it was, and I think maybe like 2 or 3 9.2, 9.4 range ones have sold. It's actually incredibly scarce for how relatively common it is on the pops. It's not common, but like some other games that have like half the pop report sell constantly, and it's just a sign that people are actually believing in this. And sure, I mean, what do you have to lose at the point when you paid 1.5 million for 9.8 plus plus? Because might as well keep it at that point. Dollar cost average, the next one. But I think aside from that high point, almost all the previous comps on it are not that crazy, right? So it's a game that actually is quite. I don't think it's down that much from the pump era actually. Like some yeah, of course 9.5 million 1.5 million is obviously extremely down, right?
But in the low grades it isn't. Because people had to shift down to chase a low grade because the others just aren't available. And to your point with the cost averaging, I agree, but other stuff got dumped because people bought it too high and they were like, yeah, but I just want to cut my losses. I don't believe in this game anymore. Mario 64 didn't, and I think that's a really strong sign.
Yeah, and it's strong in multiple angles where, like for your point, NES stuff isn't. So, like it has the whole name thing to it. It is like fairly rare. But there's still supply to actually get price points. It is N64, which people love. It is newer, which there's still some steam in the whole community that love that game. Like you said, they're still going with speedruns. Yeah, like the only thing that's holding it down is if people are afraid of the Wata stuff, and I don't know if they are.
I think it had some effect at some point. I think the negative stigma was there for a while because it's you also still want to display what you own, right? And you want to be proud of it if you pay this much. And this game was tied to you show it and people were like, oh, what a scam, what a scam, what a scam. And of course that drags some people away. But I feel like the PSA label will help also for that it's now a new era of people coming in. It's tied to the PSA name. There's not such a nice pun that you can make.
What a scam.
There's tons of puns to be made with PSA, but yeah.
Please send again.
For example.
I have for CGC, I have could get crossed. I've pushed that a bit. And for VGA, I
haven't
have
heard that
very
one.
generous authenticity.
Oh, and I love that. I haven't heard that one either.
Yeah, they're
I
both
love that
my
one.
creations, but it's the Hot Take podcast today. So.
Brilliant.
No, but yeah, but I think 300k. I'll say 300k.
I say over. I say
Yeah.
400. It's just my gut feeling. I just pumped myself into the game.
And you?
450.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I go higher. It's PSA. It's N64, and N64 is doing really well. Like really well.
Yeah, but this is a different price bracket. I think the ceiling is not entirely broken yet. I think it has like little bit of stuff left.
You need to believe.
But
I believe, but I don't believe I don't believe in this auction. I believe in the next one.
Fair
I
enough.
think makes me a bit bullish on it is what if AJ, for example, wants to add one of these, right? We kind of know who bought the 1.5 million. He's holding. I feel like if you go for the Infinity Stones, you also want the 988++ Mario 64. So,
yeah, but no, I don't think he wants that because the stuff he has been buying so far is Pop 1, right?
Yeah, and
okay,
the best
but it's still the
of
highest.
each collectible type. I don't think he wants multiple like cards or multiple games. I think he wants like the best of the best one.
And I also think this is a lot more. If you're talking about super high-end collectibles, this one will always be more liquid than like a gloss sticker Mario because it's like the gloss sticker Mario is like one you need like years for to prepare for the sale. And I think if this one sells now and it comes up again in 6 months, it will sell for a similar amount or more. And I think a gloss Mario, if it's sold now again, I don't think it would sell for the same amount. I think it would sell for like 2 million, even if the same people are bidding.
Agree. And
so,
what do we say for the blue? Where does it end?
Well,
the 10.
I think like 200k.
Yeah, I think there's still the 95, which is 95.
And also it's blue, right? Like that's just a 10, but it's blue.
Yeah, which, let's be honest, low compared to a 50k or 40k crystal, I guess. But 200k. 200k sounds fine. Before the red sale, I would have said the blue won't cross the 9.8 red, but the red landed a little bit lower than I would have anticipated right after the $2 million sale. So yeah, 200k on blue.
It's too soon, I think. It's
maybe.
Soon. Same reason for Mario 64, in my opinion. It's too soon.
Okay, yeah. We'll see.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not as high on that blue, but it's already so high. So I would also say like 200k. Doesn't need that many life bits anymore, and it is a 10. And there will not be a lot of 10s of this. It's not case fresh.
There's a lot high grade blues.
Yeah, but even if there are 3 10s, I don't think it matters. I think this is one of those purchases that will be looked upon pretty favorably. I think it will age pretty nicely, and I think a lot of this stuff is like arguable. I think this blue will be a better purchase than the 9.8 red.
It is a hard thing.
8? Oh, the Japanese one,
Yeah, of
okay,
course.
Yeah.
Because it's not like the first wave of Pokemon games in Japan. Because it was green and red, so that might be holding it back, I guess.
Yeah, but you were just arguing that it should be a bigger multiplier. You should be loving this one.
Yeah, but we don't have like even numbers to calculate the multiplier because they don't sell.
The 9898 would sell for 40k at least.
Yeah, probably on
that. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, one last thing I want to talk about, because we've talked about Central Red quite a bit. We know now the over 1 million sale. I think what happened immediately is that the supply kind of dried up for the mid grades.
I mean, you say that, but before you continue, supply dried up, like 2 or 3 sold because there were only like 2 or 3 available. So I don't think that really
the supply dried up.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah, but it was already drying up. I don't think it was because of the $1.2 million sale. I think you did see a little CIB sell. I would give you that.
Well, but those sales would have not happened without the $2 million sale.
The CIB ones wouldn't have happened. I think the sealed ones would have happened.
The 96A++?
Yeah, but okay, but that is not a mid grade. I would
not
say
no, but the mid grades just don't. The mid grades were already dry on eBay. That's true. They just don't really exist. But where do you think? Let's go from 9.0 to 9.8A+. Where do you see Central right now? Because I think it's very much in the air. what now the new market
Yeah,
price
but
is.
the problem is, I think this stuff highlighted how high the floor was on this game. Even though it was, I think it's still deserved. I think the floor was extremely high, and I think
Mhm.
the price compression you saw on the 9.0 to 9.4 didn't make any sense. So I will say 9.0 A plus is like 15 to 20k. I think 9.2 A plus is like 25 to 30k, which is new. That is entirely new.
Mhm.
I think a 9.4 A plus is like 40 to 50k, and I think that is those two, the 9294, those are new. I think the 990, that's about what it was.
I agree. I think I have pretty similar ranges. I think the compression actually went all the way to 9.6 because the last comp we had was 30k for 9.6 A++.
Yeah, but we already know what a 9.6 is worth at least, right? 9.6
Yeah,
A++ is
but I
100K.
think they were just way too compressed the whole time, way too close together, and now we had this ceiling break. And I think the 9.6 A++ will actually comfortably stay at the six-figure mark now. I
I mean, it should have been from the start, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think people will just not sell for less. Everyone will now just say, okay, at least six-figure, this is where we're going to start talking about this game.
I mean, the seller canceled, right? Like he shouldn't have. That's a dick move, but he did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's also a sign. True. And I think your range below that makes a lot of sense. We could see the 9.4 moving up a little if the 9.6 moves up, and then the others also. But the general ranges and the multipliers, I think, make sense to me that you mentioned, Trevor. Lawrence, what do you think?
Fair enough. Like someone asked me what a 9.4 A++ would sell for, and I just had to say I don't know. Like I don't know.
I think it's
60k or so.
Very in the
I
air.
said I don't think it's under 50k, but I just don't know right now. So
let's. I guess then it's time to wrap this one up. I hope you guys had fun with all the hot takes. I hope the person in the comments feels vindicated that we now made it the hot take podcast. And let's see what we come up with next time.
All right.
Goodbye.